It begins not with thunder or fire, but with a whisper, like parchment peeling away from the skin of time. A single text, forgotten beneath the soil of empire and ash, breathes again, not through voice, but vibration. They buried it, not to protect it from decay, but to protect the world from its light. Because this book does not inform, it disarms. It does not merely teach, it strips reality bare, like sunlight dissolving fog to reveal the architecture of eternity beneath the illusion of days. It was written not in haste, nor even in hope, but in knowing. A knowing too vast for kings, too dangerous for priests, and too liberating for the sleeping masses. This is not a book you read. It is a book that reads you. It holds up a mirror crafted from language older than the wind, and dares you to look into the eye of existence itself. You don't find this book, it finds you, exactly when the veil of this world begins to feel too thin, too silent, too scripted. It arrives like a ghost knocking at the cellar door of your consciousness, asking not, "Are you ready to understand?" but rather, "Are you willing to forget everything you think you know?" Imagine a tome inked in stardust and grief, hidden within a sarcophagus of ideas that no longer serve us. Its pages, fragile and golden with time, breathe with diagrams of light, metaphors shaped like humans, and truths so elegantly simple they shatter the scaffolding of philosophy itself. It doesn't give answers. It gives fractures, cracks in the glass dome you've been living under. Through those cracks, light spills in, a light that doesn't burn, but awakens. And suddenly, everything ordinary becomes suspect. Language becomes code. History becomes theater. Thought becomes a cage dressed as a crown. There are those who claimed it was a heresy because they understood, perhaps better than anyone else, that what lies within this book is not opinion, not belief, but structure. This is sacred architecture disguised as ancient prose. It's the kind of knowledge that does not bow to time. It is scaffolding for consciousness itself, constructed in secret by hands whose fingerprints linger in pyramids, in temples, in forgotten corners of ancient maps, where the world curled in on itself and whispered forgotten syllables into the wind. It speaks of reality not as a solid wall, but as a shimmering membrane, thin, porous, almost dreaming. It suggests that what we call life is not the performance, but the rehearsal, that our memories are not past events, but permissions granted by a deeper self outside of time. It implies, with disarming elegance, that the universe is a classroom, and the soul, a student repeating the same exam under different names and bodies until it stops writing answers and begins asking better questions. And yet, this is not mysticism for the sake of mystery. This is clarity so crystalline it blinds. The book doesn't hide behind metaphor. It weaponizes it. It uses allegory like a surgeon's blade, slicing away illusions until only essence remains. Its words burn gently through the scaffolding of self, revealing beneath your persona a shimmering lattice of energy, identity, and divine echo. You may be tempted to call it religious, and yet it never speaks of dogma. You may think it scientific, but it dances beyond the limits of material law. You may believe it is psychological, but even the deepest mind is only a petal on the flower it describes. It is none of these things, and all of them. It is a mirror that shows not your face, but your source. A ladder not made of rungs, but of renunciations. You climb not upward, but inward. This book was not meant to be read in candlelight or whispered in temples. It was meant to be ignited in the human soul like a wildfire that consumes falsehood, leaving behind the naked forest of what truly is. It has waited 2,000 years, not for the right time, but for the right mind, the kind that has grown disillusioned with the polished lies of civilization and begun to feel the vibrations beneath the floorboards of reality. Now, here it is. It found you. The book does not begin with commandments or theories. It begins with a fracture, a gentle, deliberate shattering of the idea that what we perceive is all there is. Its first lesson is not a sentence, but a sensation, a ripple that moves through the reader like light bending through water. You don't merely absorb it, you're rearranged by it. And in this rearrangement, its core truths emerge like islands rising from the sea of forgetfulness. At the heart of its teachings lies a single premise so profound it might be mistaken for madness. What you call reality is a construct, a ceremonial mask worn by something infinitely greater. It is not reality itself that is false, but your relationship to it, filtered through ego, emotion, language, and linear time. The book calls this the Great Veiling, a collective amnesia encoded into our birth, a forgetting that serves a deeper remembering. It tells us that time is not a line but a spiral, and you, dear soul, have walked this spiral many times, in many forms. Your body is not your identity, but your current vessel. Your thoughts are not your voice, but an echo chamber of inherited vibrations. And your desires, fears, and dreams are not private. They are ripples shared across vast oceans of consciousness. In this view, the individual is not lost. It is exalted, but only when recognized as a window, not a wall. The book explains that everything seen and unseen is vibration, that matter is frozen music, that your flesh is symphony slowed into form. There are frequencies you mistake for emotions, thoughts you mistake for choices, and identities you mistake for permanence. It calls you not to abandon the world, but to perceive it rightly as a symbolic theater, and it urges you to pierce through symbol to essence. From these foundations, the book reveals what it calls the law of reflections. Nothing you perceive is neutral. Every moment is a mirror. Each relationship, every frustration, every longing, these are coded messages from the deeper strata of self to the surface level personality. There is no coincidence, no randomness, no accident. There is only resonance. When the soul is ready, the world shifts to reflect the lesson. The teacher arrives. The betrayal happens. The silence becomes unbearable. And in those catalytic moments, you are offered a doorway not just out, but through. The book is relentless in its challenge to duality. It dismantles the idea of good versus evil, of sacred versus mundane. These, it says, are tools, not truths. They are training wheels for consciousness still learning to walk. Beyond duality lies paradox, the realm where the divine hides in shadow, and suffering itself is not punishment, but pressure, crafting the diamond of awakened being. Pain is a teacher. Pleasure is a question. All polarities are calls back to the center. Then comes the most destabilizing and perhaps liberating truth in its pages. You are both the dreamer and the dream. You are the observer who forgot it was also the actor, the creator who fell into its own creation, not by mistake, but by divine design. The forgetting was necessary for the remembering to mean something. The veil is not the enemy, it is the catalyst. In fact, the book implies this very moment, the moment of your reading, is scripted in the curriculum of your soul. You were meant to arrive here, not as a seeker, but as someone who is finally remembering that they are the source of the search itself. Interwoven into its spine is the concept of energetic responsibility. Every thought is a seed, every emotion a vibration sent into the field of form. The world around you is not happening to you, it is arising from you, bending to the contours of your frequency. And so, the book does not offer salvation, it offers recalibration. A call to shift your vibration not just for peace, but for precision, for coherence with the truth of what you really are. Not a being in time, but a timeless field of awareness localizing itself briefly to play the game of human. In what it calls the sacred hologram, it teaches that the macro and the micro are reflections of the same divine architecture. A cell mirrors a galaxy. A breath mirrors the rise and fall of civilizations. Your heartbeat is a drum echoing the rhythm of the all. And so, your healing ripples outward. Your awakening isn't isolated. You are a node in the great network of consciousness. And when one node illuminates, it changes the electrical map of the whole. All of this, the laws, the symbols, the spiral patterns, are not meant to decorate the mind, but to penetrate it. The book is not interested in spiritual entertainment. It's interested in spiritual transformation. It is a fire disguised as scripture, and its core purpose is not to give you comfort, but ignition. It begins with a story, though it doesn't declare itself as such. It emerges more like a dream within the text, a living allegory that slips past your defenses. The book tells of a child born beneath a sky that shimmered like molten silver, a sky not of clouds and light, but of veils. This child, unnamed and faceless, carries no past, only an emptiness cradled in warmth. They are born not in a village, nor in a forest, but in a mirror, a world of reflections that respond before they are touched. Every step the child takes, the earth beneath them remembers. And so, their walk becomes a story, their breath a scripture, their gaze a prayer that shapes the land. This child, the book says, is not a child, but the archetype, the one who forgets in order to remember. The sacred fool, the divine seed buried in clay. We are all fragments of this child, scattered like constellations waiting to be connected into form. As the child grows, the world speaks not in language, but in symbols. A raven that caws 3 times before vanishing into the sky. A river that flows backward in the dream time. A woman with no eyes who offers a golden thread in silence. The book does not explain these things. It simply shows them, as if daring the reader to awaken their own language of meaning. The next story is older still. It tells of a tower, not built of brick or stone, but of beliefs. This tower is built slowly, from the first word a child learns, I. Every stone added is a story. I am this. I am not that. I must do this. I cannot have that. The tower grows, spiraling upward until it touches the sky. But the higher it grows, the further the builder is from the earth. Eventually, the tower casts a shadow so large that the builder can no longer see the sun. The book says the tower must fall, not through violence, but through understanding. That the highest truth is not found in climbing, but in crumbling. That identity, no matter how sacred, must be relinquished like breath at the end of a cycle. Another narrative reveals the image of a serpent eating its tail, Ouroboros, the ancient symbol of eternal return. In the margins, a note scrawled in archaic hand reads, "The end is hidden inside the beginning." This is not just a philosophical riddle. It is a key to the entire illusion. What we call linearity, the book asserts, is the illusion. All lives are looping fragments of one great breath, spiraling inward and outward like waves returning to the sea. You have lived this before. You will live it again, but not identically, for in each loop there is the chance of awakening. In each cycle, the sleeper may stir. One of the most vivid and haunting metaphors comes in the form of a garden, not unlike Eden, but deeper in its sorrow. In this garden, there grows a tree with 7 roots, each root feeding a different illusion: power, possession, control, time, separation, belief, and the final root, identity. The fruit it bears is intoxicating: dreams that feel real, fears that teach, suffering that sanctifies. The garden is beautiful and terrifying, for it is life as we know it. Yet in the center, hidden beneath the roots, lies a small stone tablet etched with one phrase in a forgotten tongue. When translated, it reads, "None of this is what it seems. None of it is real. And yet, all of it matters." The book reveals symbols not to decorate understanding, but to detonate it. A circle drawn within a square, a spiral that never completes, a heart pierced not by a sword, but by a quill. These are more than art. They are codes. They are reminders that behind every moment, every emotion, conflict, joy, there is architecture, geometry, pattern. Nothing is wasted. Nothing is random. In this way, the book trains the reader not to seek truth in meaning alone, but in structure. As above, so below. As within, so without. Perhaps the most moving narrative is also the simplest. It tells of a being of light, ancient and endless, who chooses to descend into form, not to rule, but to forget, to taste the dust, to feel hunger, to know grief. This being becomes a child, a mother, a soldier, a beggar, a lover, a murderer, a monk. Each life is a mask, and in each mask, the same question is asked: will I remember? And the answer, always, is slow. Sometimes yes, sometimes no, but always the journey continues. The book ends this tale not with resolution, but with the image of a candle being lit in a vast cave. One flame, one flicker, enough to change everything. These stories are not told for entertainment. They are mirrors made of metaphor, designed to reflect the reader's own inner terrain. They point not to one truth, but to the truth beneath all truths, the seed truth from which religions grow and sciences spiral and art yearns to express. In each narrative, there is a map, not to a destination, but to a doorway. And it is the reader, always the reader, who must choose whether to step through. So what now? The book seems to ask, not with words, but with a subtle weight that lingers once its symbols have settled into your awareness. What do you do when the veil lifts even slightly? When you can no longer look at your morning coffee, your job, your relationships, or even your own name without sensing the strange resonance of something deeper vibrating beneath them? This book, buried for 2,000 years, was not written to remain sealed in mystery. Its revelations beg not just for reflection, but embodiment. And it is here, in the fabric of daily life, that its fire is meant to burn most fiercely. The book does not instruct like a manual. It transforms perception like a prism. Once you've peered through its lens, the world remains outwardly the same, but internally, the axis shifts. Your experiences stop being problems and start becoming messages. You begin to listen, not with ears, but with presence. The barista at the cafe is no longer a stranger, but a mirror. The argument with a loved one no longer feels like a rupture, but an echo of an internal conflict seeking expression. The weather, the patterns in traffic, even the silence in a room, all become part of a choreography where you are both dancer and observer. This is not romanticism. It is radical reorientation. You begin to realize that you are not reacting to life. You are participating in a feedback loop between your inner frequency and external form. The book whispers this truth through every page. The universe does not speak in words. It speaks in synchronicities, in feelings that linger longer than they should, in patterns that repeat until you see. It invites you to become literate in this cosmic language. In practical terms, this changes everything. If every moment is feedback, then every reaction is a compass. Resentment is not an enemy. It's a flashlight showing you where belief and self-perception are out of alignment. Joy is not a luxury. It's a tuning fork that tells you when your energy is matching your design. You begin to stop asking, "Why is this happening to me?" and instead begin to wonder, "What vibration within me is this reflecting back?" And in that shift of inquiry, you start to move from victimhood to authorship, from character to creator. The book warns of this phase gently but clearly. Once you begin to perceive the truth of your role in the architecture of reality, you may feel a kind of vertigo. The structures you trusted, external authority, societal validation, the comfort of certainty, will begin to dissolve. This is not a failing. It is the clearing of the slate, the sacred reset. Your nervous system may resist. Your habits may rebel. Old friends may fall away as their energetic contracts expire. All of this, the book affirms, is natural. Awakening is not the acquiring of new information. It is the unbecoming of the false self. But the book does not leave you in limbo. It urges integration, not escape. Go to work, but go with new eyes. Sit with your children, not as a parent bound by role, but as a soul witnessing the eternal in disguise. Eat with gratitude. Speak only what resonates with the frequency of your essence. And most importantly, when suffering arises, and it will, it urges you not to run, not to numb, but to enter it like a temple. To ask, what sacred information is hidden in this discomfort? For suffering, the book says, is often the last costume truth wears before it reveals its face. The book also speaks to collective structures, not as immutable systems, but as reflections of our shared internal agreements. Institutions, governments, even technology, they are not external forces oppressing us, but projections of our unresolved collective psyche. This doesn't mean we accept injustice. It means we recognize that lasting change is not a revolution of policy, but a revolution of perception. If enough individuals recalibrate their internal frequencies, the world must, by design, restructure itself around that new resonance. This is why the book is not merely spiritual, it is profoundly political in the most metaphysical sense. It reclaims sovereignty not through resistance, but remembrance. You do not fight the old world. You embody the new pattern so vividly, so consistently, that the old begins to collapse under the weight of your authenticity. This, the book declares with silent confidence, is how real change happens, not through force, but through frequency. And so it returns, again and again, to the central practice, presence. It teaches that you cannot access truth in the past or the future, only here, now, in the breath you are taking, in the thought you are observing, in the sensation rising through your body without judgment. Reality shifts not through ritual, but through attention. What you attend to, you feed. What you feed, you become. In this light, the mundane becomes sacred. The ordinary becomes oracular. You may still do the dishes, but now you see the spiral in the suds. You may still walk the same streets, but you hear the hum beneath the pavement. And when you dream, you begin to realize you are not merely escaping the day. You are communicating with yourself through symbols the conscious mind has forgotten how to read. In the end, the book offers no guru, no final doctrine, no hierarchy. It says, the teacher you seek is inside you. It always was. This book was only the matchstick. You are the fire. And now we stand where the path narrows, where the river of words slows to a silent pool. The book does not end. It vanishes. It fades like mist dissolving under the gaze of a rising sun. But in its disappearance, it leaves something behind. Not a doctrine, not a law, not even a name. It leaves a knowing, a quiet, thunderous knowing that the world you thought was real is but the shadow of something vaster, something unspeakably intimate. You close the book, or rather, it closes you. And in the stillness that follows, you feel the gravity of what it has done. It has not filled you with answers. It has emptied you of false questions. It has not given you enlightenment. It has reminded you that you are light, folded into matter, wearing skin like a costume in a cosmic play. The truth it offers is not the kind that coddles. It is the kind that strips you bare, not out of cruelty, but out of love so unflinching it refuses to allow you to remain less than what you are. You are not simply the reader. You are the continuation of the book. You are its unfolding, its extension, its breath in the modern world. Your thoughts, your choices, your silences, they are now the pen writing the next verse. And this is where the real journey begins. Not in esoteric wisdom or hidden scriptures, but in how you touch the world from this moment forward. To know the truth of reality is to carry a kind of holy burden. You cannot unsee what you've seen. You cannot walk back into the dream without noticing the seams in the sky, the static behind the script. You may try, many do, but once you've tasted the depth of what this book reveals, the surface world grows thin. It no longer satisfies. Illusions lose their flavor. And this is not a curse, it is a calling. The call is simple, though not easy. Embody the truth. Not in grand gestures, but in the ordinary sacredness of daily life. Listen deeply. Speak only when the vibration is clear. Love not as attachment, but as recognition. Walk not as someone looking for a destination, but as one who knows they are the path itself. This is not metaphor, it is vibrational fact. You are both compass and territory, both seed and soil. There is no separation left to believe in, no enemy left to resist. Only reflections, only resonance, only one, wearing the mask of many. The transformational invitation is subtle, but irreversible. You are not being asked to believe anything. You are being invited to remember everything, to shed the costume of the conditioned self, to reclaim the authority you once outsourced to gods, systems, and others. Not to dominate, but to radiate. Not to control, but to harmonize. Your very presence is now a tuning fork. Wherever you go, you recalibrate the field. The world bends subtly in response to the frequencies you carry. This is how new realities are born, not through force, but through fidelity to truth. And what is that truth? That you are not in time. Time is in you. You are not in the body. The body is in you. You are not even you, at least not the version shaped by memory, trauma, and expectation. You are awareness, dreaming itself into form, learning itself through contrast, and now awakening itself through remembrance. So the book ends, not with a period, but with a breath, a soft exhale that says, "Now it is yours, not to preach, not to protect, but to live. For this world is not broken, it is blooming, and the seed it needs most now is you, not as a personality, but as a presence. You are the page, you are the ink, you are the eternal author writing now, through flesh, through moment, through miracle. Do not look for the divine in temples or texts. Look in the mirror. Look in the silence between thoughts. Look in the face of the next stranger you meet. That is where the truth has always been buried, waiting not 2,000 years beneath the soil, but just beneath the surface of your being. And now it is unearthed.